Hey everybody, Douglas Blair Roberts here, the Super Beta 400, and of course, Brown Skin Human coming back at you with another video type intro. This is my second Doug's rant on current and past social issues rant. This is a brand new rant. Past and current issues like the George Floyd riots, Baltimore riots, various people I can't stand, or my newest series, a praise and salute, and small rants for things I don't like about them, for conservatives, and people I of course do respect and admire and look up to. The reason I'm redoing this video is because for some odd reason, the previous daytime intro I did earlier this year, that video, for some odd reason, whenever I upload it to YouTube, I always get a copyright claim for the music I used, even though the music I've used in the past had of course no copyright claim. So had of course no copyright claim, and the copyright claims aren't a big deal, but they will be in the future if I ever plan to monetize this video when my channel becomes available for monetization. I'm gonna still use the same song, but I'm gonna use a different video. The last song and video I used was an upload from the band itself. This is just a re-upload. This is just a random re-upload of the quote unquote song, and I'm gonna see does this one get a copy? Does this one get a copyright too? This one gets a copyright too. If this one gets a copyright, I'll just dispute it when the time comes. I'll just dispute it with the creators, with the quote unquote creators, or maybe even just have YouTube swap out the song. So that's what I'm gonna be doing from now on. That's what I'm doing, a brand new intro, a video I've already done, and there will be also short remakes of those same better remakes of those same videos. I may even do another one later for another daytime version, because I like the lighting during the day than I do at night. And for some odd reason, my ceiling fan, the light in my ceiling fan went out, and it's hard to reach and focus and screw the light on with the huge dome in the way. So with that being said, let's get started right now. Let's show these people what I'm made of. Let me show you who I am, what I'm here for. everybody, this is going to go on multiple platforms, multiple fan pages right here. This is, and it will also in the future, I don't feel like it right now, but it will also be in the future, be a narration picture version. But this right here, this is my this is my webcam rant on wrestling. In my opinion, the two worst forms of wrestling. Number one, high school, collegiate, and the worst of all, probably WWE style of wrestling. WWE style of wrestling. Collegiate wrestling I actually respect and appreciate, but I do not like it. I don't think wrestling, first off, I don't believe wrestling, a violent combat sport, a violent, intense combat sport like wrestling, should be taught in schools. That should be taught in the athletic clubs. That should stay in the athletic clubs, gymnasiums, auditoriums, and stadiums where it belongs. The stadiums, followed by the best, the Olympics. When I say the stadiums, the Olympics. That's where wrestling should stay. The dominant styles: Greco-Roman, freestyle, judo, jiu-jitsu, and the greatest one, sambo, the Russian style. That's probably the greatest form of wrestling. My specialties are the Greco-Roman, freestyle, and the worst, folk style. That's the high school level style, the wimpy, watered down high school level style. I participated in wrestling in high school and was okay, and was okay. Wasn't the best, but wasn't the worst either. Wasn't the worst either. And won. And while never anything special, went with hard work, perseverance, dumb luck, and teamwork, managed to win and earn several awards in wrestling. To this day, I am embarrassed that someone as cool as me was ever in a lame sport like high school wrestling. I think high school wrestling is one of the lamest and wimpiest forms of wrestling, and one of the lamest and wimpiest sports of all time. It is one of the worst sports. Unlike other sports, this is the only sport where, number one, you didn't have to be in shape. You didn't have to be in shape to win. If you were big and strong, you would go far in wrestling. And watch this: people on my team who really weren't that good technique wise, but they were big and strong. They were big and strong. Because they were big and strong, they got the top spot on the team. And I had to do as they say. Yeah, when I arrived in high school, I listened to my dad's big man campus on storylines, how the upperclassmen rule and run everything. Well, I don't care what grade you were in. You fuck with me, I'm kicking your ass. I went in there with a Mike Tyson prison yard combat sports mentality, street fighter mentality athlete, where the first person who looks at me wrong. And a lot of them believed that just because they were older, that meant something. And that meant something. They would use their pull to bully people. Well, in high school, later had to a little bit, or at least accept them as friends, which I didn't like, and I still hate my parents for that several years later. But in high school, in the beginning, I didn't have to accept crap from, I didn't have to take a lot of crap, especially in the beginning, from the older ones. Now, in wrestling, you had to, or else you'll be dismissed from the team. You would get dismissed from the team. You had to put up with their bullying. And then, one thing I can't stand when it comes to bullies, especially on the wrestling team, my coach, he liked hazing and bullying people. My wrestling coach liked hazing and bullying people. And this is all wrestlers. This is all wrestlers. I'm gonna get to this later. Well, anyway, one thing I can't stand is when you if you stand up to them, you'll be kicked out of practice. You'll be off the team. You whine and complain. You'll be off the team. But you had to do as they say. You had to do as they say. You had to do as they say. And they were arrogant and tyrannical. These guys were the champions of. These guys were guys wearing tights. The champion of the guys in tights and underwear, acting all hard, acting all tough and badass. And I would be more respectful if they were Olympic and Olympic world class based champions, any world class amateur wrestling level, No, these are lame, wimpy high school wrestlers, and these were county, region, region based champions. These weren't state champions. I had a summer coach who managed to get a second in the state, which that's the biggest. High school wrestling sucks, but that's the biggest accomplishment in wrestling, because even you have to wrestle and beat a lot of people to get what you call it. See, in other words, there are buys, forfeits, and politicking, placing based upon records to put the best, that managed to get the group up the best wrestlers. So, whereas in the state championship, even with all of those buys, all of those special seeds and placings, you still have to fight like a dog. You have to fight like a dog to get even second to get even silver or bronze. I mean, to get even bronze place, let alone gold and silver. So that's why and they would act hard. Then when it's over, after all of the humiliation, all of the bullying, they're gonna have the audacity to set up a banquet. The one, set up a banquet. Two, try to give you a lame participation trophy, and then give you a form of respect. Try to shake your hand, give you a form of respect. I hate that when a bully bullies you, and later when you accomplish it, they try to come at you and give you respect. I hate that, motherfucker. If you don't get the fuck out of my face, boy, you get the fuck out of my face. My dad made me go to that just about every year. Every year except for the 12th grade, where finally we didn't have one in 12th grade because there wasn't enough money to have one. Good. You don't deserve one. My coach and the team. My coach had to get one of the members to send us all our awards and stuff. What's his name? And then so they give you a lame participation trophy, as if all of that stuff is gonna be bygones. And then what else about wrestling? So the bullying and hazing. And then one thing I can't stand about wrestlers, more so than any sport, wrestlers are the biggest pussies, the biggest bullies and pussies of all time. They win a couple of fake grappling fights, not a real legitimate fight like a boxing or any form of full contact sport where you're going to be punched and kicked, or absorb, or at least even in football, hockey, soccer, and rugby, where you're absorbing tackles and takedowns, and have multiple people coming at you. This is a lame one-on-one grappling fight, and these guys, wrestlers, like to walk around like they're tough, like they're the baddest in the world. Now you gotta have either a bully mentality or super arrogant mentality, which I later had to adopt, a super arrogant mentality to be a top guy in that sport. You can't be a super nice guy like I was and be successful. If you're a super nice guy, timid and weak like I was, you don't need to be anywhere like wrestling. But I hated that people who were trying to work hard, work their place, you had these other people bullying, and you had these other people bullying and hazing them, hazing them, and then in what is supposed to be a demonstration or a sparring match, legitimately trying to cripple, trying to injure, trying to cripple and trying to injure. Which I hate people like that. Then when they find one person who is tough enough to respond against them, oh, they want to comply, they want to complain, they want to whine and complain. You see this a lot in WWE. You saw this a lot in WWE. You don't see it much now because most of those bullies, fake shooters as they call them, the real fighters and real wrestlers, real legitimate wrestlers, most of those don't exist anymore. Most people now are just trying to work, are prize fighters, actors, athletes, and entertainers, and are just trying to work and get their money in championships and stuff. And no one's trying to sabotage or legitimately trying to hurt someone in the ring, boy. Or at least if you're gonna do that in pro wrestling, tell someone you're gonna do that. But I hate people like that, because anyone can play their sport. It was even worse if you came from another sport. If you came from nothing like me, or another sport, which is me. I played soccer and t-ball in my youth before wrestling. If you came from another sport or nothing, I fall into both of those categories. Oh, you got it even worser. You got it even worse than those football players and weightlifters, and they immediately got the top spot. With little hard work. Whereas a guy like me had to train and work every day at it, man. First off, the only reason I was even in wrestling, my dad has the audacity to constantly bring it up now as if it's a good thing. The only reason I was even in wrestling was number one and two was to wear dark black and white tights, socks, combat medieval boots, the cool high top wrestling mat shoes wrestlers and boxers wear far away look like boots, look like combat and English medieval boots, jerseys and letterman's jackets. There are no jerseys in wrestling. It's hoodies, which I don't like, but I wore, and still own t-shirts, which are the next best thing. And of course, I went to a jacket store and got a cool letterman's jacket, which got to wear this, and to acquire these things, to make several Halloween costumes that I wear out on Halloween, and now in various videos, and will perform in when I start the professional portion of my various careers. So yeah, and third, of course, was to win championships. I like belts, but they offer medals. I like belts, trophies, and rings, but this sport offered medals and trophies. I like belts, rings, and trophies. That was number 3. But even number 3 wasn't worth all of the bullying and misery. And then the rookies, the others, got it even harder than I did. And I, after seeing my coach and several members bully a guy who was coming up, and who was trying to come up in wrestling and was new and just wasn't getting it fast enough. The first guy, they brutally hazed him by putting him in a painful hold called the banana split, which I hate this hold. Firstly, I hate it because, first off, it's not a real move. It's not a move you'll see in an actual fight. Number 2, it's a lame show-offy move. Number 3, it's a homoerotic move, which has the person in a cradle ball position, splitting their legs. This and the shining wizard, which is you on top of the person splitting their legs. Yes, it sounds just as homoerotic as I sound, but it's extremely painful. One of the worst holds, one of the worst moves of all time. I hated practicing this. I hated people putting this on me, and it's just one of the worst holds. It's just one of the worst holds of all I'm telling you, they brutally put him in one of those two maneuvers, and brutally hazed him and basically made him quit. They do this. They put you in a painful hole, bully the crap out of you, and to see if you're tough enough to come back. See if you're tough enough to come back. Come back later. I was tough. I was man enough to come back later, but I'm really just sick of people like that who aren't tough wrestlers, who aren't tough, walking around thinking they're tough, thinking they're tough, and they both bullied him. Then the second guy, we had to do another exercise that I hate. It's a football exercise called up downs, where you jog in place, drop to the floor, then come up. It's a drop to the floor and then come up as quickly as the coach says. What you call it? If you mess up, he adds more. And one day he got so mad he got mad and cut a guy by tearing up his physical. Without the physical, the guy couldn't even wrestle. The guy can't even wrestle. Which they was that and more disrespect and more increased disrespect. Where I decided to quit the team. And I mentioned this in my high school rant. Finally, high school rant. I mentioned this. I finally quit the team. I got into a fist fight with the leader of the team. Then when the coach broke it up, I told the coach what I thought of him. I gave him the finger. Told him, I'm number 1. You're number 11. Told him what I thought of him, and decided and told that SOB never appear before me again. I ain't never wrestling again. I went home. I never came back. Came back once, only to get disrespected again. And never ever came back until my friends convinced me to come back. Despite my hatred of the team. It was mostly just the coach. I did respect Wichita, so I came back one time for my friends and my fans, who have always appreciated fans, for one time, and at school beat the rival in my match, beat the rival guy. My dad had the audacity, the unmitigated gall. I'm still mad at him for this and badly want to fight him for this. And if he sabotages me again, like he did in the past, like he did numerous times in the past, or I don't succeed at my goals, I badly want to fight with him. So once again, if you see months and months of no activity or see me on the news, this is what I'm talking about. So just preparing people already. What's his name? Gonna make the spotlight about him, and gonna make me share the spotlight with my coach, the guy, the bane of my existence, the reason I quit the team. Then gonna make me forgive the guy who did all the NBA. Gonna make me forgive and force me to return to the team, and now I'm back on the team. I made it clear. I didn't respect. I made it clear. My coach said, if you don't respect anyone, won't be coach. Don't be coach here. Someone is weak, and arrogant as him is unfit to coach someone like me. I refuse to cooperate with someone like them. So I left that place. Gonna be audacity. Then the coach, one thing I can't stand, right? Wrestling coach, he was a bully and a pussy. When I finally decided to turn him on him, he's gonna back down and say, oh, you're not gonna try. He's gonna back down twice and say, you're not gonna try all that crazy stuff on me. He's one of those guys who likes to fuck with people, but if they respond and try to beat him up, he's gonna quickly back down. He's one of the biggest pussies I know. And then he's gonna try to Then later, with this time with the group of people behind him, he did this to another guy who didn't want to wrestle on his team, a senior who was graduating during my junior year, who was graduating and didn't want to wrestle. My coach gonna Firstly, it's bad enough he bullies rookies, but then he tries to bully upperclassmen, senior too. He's gonna when the guy decides he was gonna wrestle, he's gonna get a group of friends, jump this guy, and force him to wrestle. Then when the guy once again quits and refuses to wrestle, the coach abandons all respect for him, even though this guy helped him and might help me become a better wrestler and help the team win numerous championships. So that coach has no respect. That coach abandoned all respect for him because he didn't want to wrestle. He didn't want to wrestle on the team. He didn't want to wrestle on the team. I abandoned any respect I've ever had for for that coach and that team, or any entire program. Amateur wrestling in high school should be abolished. That should be in the athletic clubs and Olympics and stadiums, gymnasiums and auditoriums where it belongs, where it was first. But for some odd reason, wrestling in schools is much more popular, despite how much it sucks. It's wimpy, watered down. You can't do a bunch of moves. It's wimpy, watered down. It's so wimpy and watered down that even weaklings like myself and several other members on my team were able to do it and become successful. So, But going back to him being a bully. Alone, he's a pussy. But with a group of people, with a group of people behind him, with a group of people, then he tries to be all tough and threaten, and tries to threaten me. Of course, tries to threaten me. I was prepared for it. You're not gonna jump me. You're gonna be in the obituaries of your own paper. My dad gonna have the audacity to not only when I told my dad my problems with the coach, not only did my dad take the side of the coach over his own son, but he had the audacity to sit up there. Interfere in a fight that doesn't concern you in the fight and force me to forgive the coach and return to the team. And because I returned to the team, thanks to him and the coach, I blame one of the only reasons I compete in that sport is the championships. I came back and lost. I won the first match back and lost the last four, and those are some of the worst matches and some of the worst performances I've ever had. I at least thought I could beat two wrestlers, especially the other one who I saw perform badly, and get pinned easily by one of the members of my team. I wrestled him and learned that guy is the weakest varsity wrestler, but was still a level higher than I was. Then the other one, I wasn't in his league at all. That was over before the coach even got there. Worst performances ever, man. I actually plan to wrestle again just to end that sport on my terms and not on the coach's terms, and importantly my dad's term. My dad, he's been doing it all my life, taking my life and goals, sabotaging me and trying to make it about him and other people. I absolutely hate it. Any parent doing that deserves the most savage and most severe ass whooping possible. I don't care what race you are, but I see it all the time in Afro-Americans. That's why I attack them the most, man. In brown people communities, that's why I attack them the most. What else about wrestling, and my biggest accomplishment in wrestling was 10th grade. My biggest accomplishment was winning was placing second silver in the regionals and qualifying for state in early 2006. It was a fluky win. I even shook hands and told the wrestler I beat that he was the better wrestler that night. He just messed up, and I took the advantage. But he was the better wrestler that night. The problem at the time, it was the ultimate accomplishment, but then it quickly became a stale accomplishment because, number one, the worst problem I had with it was, unlike all the other people who were on the varsity, the elite lineup, they were chosen because they were one of the elite. Even the weakest there was still the weakest elite wrestler was still elite. I was not elite. I was a regular mid card. I was a regular mid card junior varsity, wrestler. I wanted to be at the time. I wanted. Now I don't care, but at the time I wanted to be an elite. I wanted to be an elite wrestler like my friends on the team. The what's his name? Despite I was never treated like an elite. I was only there because the coach, number one, couldn't feel his team, and because of good behavior. I wanted to be there because I earned the spot, not because you can't feel your team. Then for being there and feeling your team, I got, when I lost and went through a huge slump and lost a bunch of matches in 11th grade, I got constantly disrespected, then eventually demoted. This is where I gave up wrestling. I still wrestled after this, but I was never the same after this. But this was actually my favorite part, because this is where I became the wrestler I wanted to be, the cool, show-offy sports entertainment, instead of the lame, boring, robotic wannabe tough wrestler my coaches weren't taught. I got to show off, be cool, and and finally earned the assistant wrestling coach's respect. But I didn't want his respect now. I became arrogant, and disrespectful, constantly thinking the older coaches were in the way. I didn't want their help. In the beginning, I wanted to learn on them. That's another thing I hate about Chelsea. I was a nice guy, and that got me respect from my most of my peers, but that got me disrespect from a lot of the higher ups, especially the coaches on the team. And now I decided to be arrogant and be disrespectful, because that's how I had to be that way. You have to be that way to survive. You got to be a bully, which I don't like to be, or you got to be a show-off, arrogant, and highly disrespectful, selfish person, which I became. And what's his name? Highly disrespectful person, and finally, and performed much better in matches. My coach, he's gonna go through. He kept me on junior varsity in the mid card. With the varsity wrestlers, lost numerous fights, numerous matches. Then when it's all said and done, he's gonna come at me in the hallway. And it wasn't him losing that angered me. It was the fact that he demoted me, blamed me for the losses, and still found time to criticize my skills, my skills and work in the ring, when him and his team, the varsity elite, are losing every single big match ever, acting like they're Superman. They can't lose, and he's gonna have the audacity to come at me in the hallway, talking like a banquet. I badly cursed and threatened him out. I badly cursed and threatened him. That's the only thing I actually respected about him. Unlike the teachers and principals, I could threaten a coach and actually get away with it. They really weren't intimidated by my antics like teachers was. That's the only form of respect I would actually give them. I could threaten them to get away with it. And what's his name? And then my dad did, and I refused to go. My dad going, I wanted to be a rebel at that time. Wanted to be a rebel, and wanted to be a rebel, all rock and roll and stuff, and didn't want to go, didn't want to go to a banquet place. I saw that was beneath me. No, we still have unsettled business. My dad once again would come in, interrupt a fight that doesn't concern him, and force me to go to this lame, what's his name. The only highlight from this is that the trophies, several years later, when I told my mom and them not to clean out the garage, they moved my trophies, and they ruined luckily they ruined his participation trophies, which I remember not wanting at the time. So that's the only highlight. That was the only highlight from going to that stupid. That's the only highlight from going to that stupid banquet. But I absolutely hate my dad forcing me for once again interfering in a fight that didn't concern him, forcing me to go to a witch club I didn't want to go to. 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 I abandoned all respect I've ever had for him and what's his name. And like I said, if those three things earlier that happens, we will be fighting because I want that more than ever. I want that more than ever. The only reason I don't fight him now, I don't want to lose any privilege. I don't want to lose any privileges. That's the only reason I don't fight him now. Fight him right now. Yeah, yeah. So that's why I'm wrestling, so yeah, that was high school wrestling. The what you call it, the hazing and the bullying. Now let's get to WWE wrestling, which I haven't got to yet. I mean that's yet. I've always wanted to wrestle. I decided to postpone the goal when I learned that wrestling wasn't real and saw all the you see all the steroids deaths and stuff, and I think sacrifice as a kid. I used to defend this when people would say wrestling was fake, use the F word. Nowadays I don't mind the F word because you put these guys in real wrestling, the Olympics, they'll get murdered. The Olympics, they'll get murdered. You put these guys in a real fight, boxing, MMA, all styles kickboxing, they will get murdered. They will get murdered and stuff. Lesnar only succeeded because he was an amateur. He was an amateur wrestler. He sucked at fighting. He's actually one of the worst fighters I've ever seen. He's actually one of the worst fighters I've ever seen. Cain Velasquez, who was a wrestler like him and was better at stand-up, and Alistair Overeem, a former professional kickboxer, former and now current. He's back in kickboxing now with his release from UFC. A K1 kickboxer and Alistair Overeem beat the living daylights out of Brock Lesnar, showing Brock Lesnar's weakness. He can wrestle, but he can't punch or save his life. And he was juicing and cheating. So yeah, Lesnar. So you want to bring up Lesnar. So yeah, these SOBs aren't tough. These SOBs aren't tough. And even the toughest wrestler will lose because that wrestler isn't battle tested. They may know real fighting. They may know real martial arts, boxing and stuff. They're not warriors. They never tested it in the ring or proven their toughness against another man. They've beat up those tough guys from the past. Beat up, bullied weak people in the bars, or beat up and bullied other jobbers and quote unquote rookies. And it's the same with the amateur wrestlers. Once again, the pro wrestlers, they're probably even worse because at least with amateur wrestling, that was a real contest. Pro wrestling, this isn't real. You're wrestling to entertain and tell a story, win championships, and win championships and make money. That's what you're wrestling. That's what you're wrestling for. Your prize fighters, actors, athletes, entertainers. I'm sick of these fake shooters. These fake cartoonish shooters. I like to call these wrestlers cartoon characters. The wrestlers I'm talking about are Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, Dudley, Mark Henry, who these two recently defended bullying and hazing in wrestling. Undertaker, John Cena. And even though I like these guys, the Steiner brothers, John Bradshaw Layfield, and many more. These guys during their careers, they like making the young guys' lives miserable. They like bullying and hazing them, testing them, see if they have what it takes. And more people like always respect for the business, not only respect for the business. It was a couple of veterans who were afraid of their spots, who were afraid of losing their spots, so they did everything in their power to bully. The up and coming guys who were already just being in the business for a couple of years, or haven't even gotten into the business yet, were already better than them. But they were coming here taking out their aggression, because a lot of people see wrestling as fake and stuff. So they were taking it out on younger guys, or some of these guys were like never has-beens. So they were taking it out on younger guys coming up, punishing them in sessions. Hardcore Holly, who I'm also a huge fan of as a wrestler, but as a person, was a scumbag, beating the living daylights out of Matt Capitelli to the point that he got a brain tumor, which went away. They came back several years later in 2018. Then he passed away from that same brain tumor. You had the incident where I lost a lot of respect for the late Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Hardcore Holly. He's still alive. And Kurt Angle too, during the Tough Enough segment with Daniel Puder, a legit fighter and shooter. Kurt Angle tried to be a bully and he hurt the first guy's ribs. He hurt the first wrestler's ribs. He was supposed to wrestle one guy, pin him and beat me over, but Kurt Angle had to go all crazy and hurt the guy's ribs. Kurt Angle had to go all crazy and hurt the guy's ribs. So then Daniel Puder came in. Daniel Puder, now when he want to get hurt, so Daniel Puder reverse angles amateur wrestling pin into a Kimura, and had it not been for Jimmy Corderas, the referee, Daniel Puder would have snapped and broke Kurt Angle's arm live on TV. So the WWE, who are a scripted fake wrestling company, keeps trying to do real stuff, keeps trying to do quote unquote real stuff, kept trying to do quote unquote real stuff in wrestling, so they had to save face, and Daniel Puder, who won tough enough, and in my opinion was already good. All he needed was more training from the veterans. He was already better than half of the roster. He just needed more seasoning and training immediately. In the Royal Rumble, one of the worst burials and beatdowns I've ever seen. Daniel Puder, he was just told to go out there and lose, and JR defends this to this day, saying admits and defends to say that Benoit, Guerrero, and Hardcore Holly were being bullies. And here's the problem I have with this: back then wrestlers were more manlier. They had locker room fights, and it was their job as veterans to see how tough, legitimately tough, this new guy, this shooter truly was. Okay, fine. If you either put on the gloves and meet him in a ring or a cage, or like old school, fight in the locker room backstage, locker room backstage. No, they decide to bully and beat him down in a fake wrestling match where the script says he can't fight back. He was just told to go out there and wrestle and lose and get eliminated. He wasn't told that he was going to get the most severe ass whooping all the time. He got kicked, punched, chopped, etc. in the ring. It was that moment I gained a lot of respect for Eddie Guerrero. Not that sad that Eddie Guerrero is dead, and damn sure not sad about Benoit, who I've come to accept. Benoit, who I grew up looking up to, was a bully, was a bully roid user, and what you call it. It was more a roid user than just a woman beater. And it was more of those factors than his stupid concussion story. He had the same amount of concussions as every other wrestler, and they haven't went crazy and killed people. Bullying and hazing and wrestling, hating. I'm glad in modern day wrestling, you don't really see a lot of that anymore. A lot of those guys are gone. We have more, we have more workers, like I said, prize fighters, actors, athletes, and entertainers. That's what wrestling is. You're not warriors. You're not combat sports athletes. combat sports athletes. What's his name? And that was the issue I had with wrestlers, quote unquote. That was the issue I had with the wrestlers from back in the day. And then when I see how talented a lot of those wrestlers from back then were, and see how talented the wrestlers of today were, I hate the previous generations, those other wrestlers I just mentioned, the previous generations, for trying to hold these wrestlers down. So I like to call the wrestlers from back then Bubba Ray Dudley, John Cena, Randy Orton, Austin, JBO. I like to call these guys dinosaurs. They set the business back several years, and you see the wrestlers today make them look like old, lame dinosaurs after seeing how badass the wrestlers were now. And the other underground wrestlers from back then, the indie wrestlers from back then, why the hell would you want to watch these lame old dinosaurs wrestle? Go in there and try to wrestle. Undertaker too. Yeah, he's on that list too. Why would you watch these lame dinosaurs get in there and try to wrestle? So other problems I have, and it's mostly WWE. The other promotions outside of WWE are actually okay. It's mostly WWE and their trash. Nowadays. Constantly burying their talent, this sink or swim mentality, constantly burying talent, constantly signing talent you're not going to use. I'm sick of them sitting their scouts signing wrestlers from these different companies and not even using them, not even quote unquote using them, not even quote unquote not even quote unquote not even quote unquote using them. Sick of them signing wrestlers from other companies and not even using them. Signing wrestlers from other companies and not even using them. Then releasing. WWE just recently had two of his biggest releases ever. Next, the road schedule. Why do you have a road schedule? I used to defend this to wrestlers. They spend 700 days on the road every year, 700 days on the road every year, 700 days in multiple months on the road. You shouldn't be on the road for that. You shouldn't be on the road. Why would you want to ruin your investment? Other companies don't have intense work traveling schedules like that. And other sports don't either. Why do you, a wrestling company, do? And that causes your wrestling to get beat up and injured more. And instead of correcting this problem, they said instead of getting rid of the road schedule, no, they do worse. They tone down the moves, which makes the action look even more watered down, fake and gay. And despite toning it down, they get injured more, making these wrestlers look even more pussified. They still, with the toned down action, they still get injured. They still get hurt in the ring. So like I said, ruining the action in the ring. So Another thing, the last one I have a problem with, this was Shawn Michaels, Rock, Austin, and my boy Hulk Hogan. The last one, and the Stone Cold Steve Austin. The last one I have a problem with. Backstage politicking. Wrestlers, these fake wrestlers, letting these belts and accomplishments, these fake belts and accomplishments go to their head. Yes, they're props. The wrestler and storyline makes the belt, not what WWE tries to do nowadays by having the wrestler put over, having the belt get the wrestler over, when having the belt get the wrestler over, when it should be the other way around. But letting these belts, so, and they become, when they get to the spotlight, they don't want to drop the title on anybody. They don't want to drop the title on anybody. They do everything in their power to try to bury and sabotage people. Rock, when he was young, he complained about Michaels, Triple H, and the Clique bullying him. Yet when he got to the top, bullying and holding him down, when he got to the top, he did everything in his power to hold down Billy Gunn. Oh, but guess who he did work with? He was okay with working with Triple H. We still had to put up with several years later. Oh, guess who he also what you call it. Then when he came back, when he saved wrestling, guess what he put over? He put over John Cena. John Cena got the torch from JBL, Shawn Michaels, Booker T, Booker T, Booker T, Kurt Angle, and many more. And this SOB still can't get over. He still can't get the right reaction. And Rock, that whole awesome storyline was just to put John Cena over again. I hope I never see The Rock again. He's only nostalgia now. He's only nostalgia now. Then that's that Rock. But now I blame McMahon for Rock leaving. But when Rock left, he didn't put anyone over. He put over Goldberg, who was already a megastar. Why would you put over a younger guy? He put over Goldberg and Booker T, who always a megastar in WWE. WWE didn't continue with Booker T's push. They had Triple H beat him at WrestleMania 19 and moved him down the card. So, what's his name? What about Booker T? What about then Austin? Austin was the same way. They didn't want to lose. They want to drop the belt to Jeff Jarrett. This turned out to be a good thing because Jeff Jarrett got to go to WCW and become even better, in my opinion. Then he also didn't want to drop it to Billy Gunn. He also didn't want to drop it to Mark Merrill because Mark Merrill lost a match to Sabre, who was the weakest character locally, even though Mark Merrill's a boxer and could probably knock the living daylights out of Austin. Was a boxer and could knock the living daylights out of Austin and beat the living daylights out of Austin in a real fight, letting these belts go to their head, man. Like I said, man, if I'm going to be a wrestler, I hope to win a lot of belts, but I'm not going to sit up there unless the guy I'm supposed to drop the title to is just awful. I'm not going to sit up there and hold a belt hostage. I'm not going to sit up there and hold a belt hostage when it's another guy's turn to win the belt. I'm going to give him the belt. I'm not going to sit up there and hold a belt hostage. If you want to do that, enter a real combat sport and win the belt and train and hold on to it as long as you can, which I also plan to do. Fourth, you want to enter real combat sports like boxing, kickboxing, MMA. Therefore, I win the belts in those sports. I can hold on to them as long as I can. So yeah, these are the things. These are my biggest pet peeves with pro wrestling. Next time I'm gonna rant on the Me Too, Speak Out movement, the one in pro wrestling, which has ruined so many awesome wrestling careers like Joey Ryan, Jimmy Havoc, and many more. So with that being said, I'm finished for now. I talked longer than I wanted to. You don't want to hear the rest of the music? Turn the video off right now.
Like a million faces, I recognize them all, and one by one they all become a number as they fall. In the face of reason, I can't take no more. One by one they all become like bombs on the floor. Is it amazing to say that you're looking for? Let me show you who I am and what I have in store. In store. Hey, yeah! Trying to reach inside of me, trying to take my energy. Let me show you just what I'm made of. Simple curiosity, trying to take no mind of me. Let me show you just what I'm